Welcome to NC Political Tea, the show where North Carolina's political scene gets served piping hot, grassroots style. We're here to shake up the status quo with unapologetically conservative takes and a whole lot of Southern charm. From the halls of Congress to under the dome, we're exposing the deals, the drama, and the dirt that the mainstream media won't touch. Who's fighting for your freedom? Who's selling out to the woke mob? And who's about to get roasted? No fluff, no filters, and absolutely no time for spineless politics. Just bold Republican commentary, sharp analysis, and enough sass to make the left squirm. So grab your sweet tea or something stronger, and let's dive into the hottest headlines and juiciest scandals rocking the Tar Heel State. This is NC Political Tea, where the truth always gets served.
But the Judiciary Committee, Tom Tillis decided to block it in the Judiciary Committee.
Democrat from California?
Yeah, well, something like that, yeah.
Oh, no, Republican from North Carolina.
Right.
So why would Tom Tillis, who was elected in maybe 2012, 14, something like that-ish, but a lot of money spent on that campaign. A lot of Republicans mobilized to get that guy elected in a swing state even then. And, a lot of hope residing in Tom Tillis. Why would Tom Tillis be the instrument of your destruction?
Well, look, I think, I got to say, the Senate's got a process, respect the process, all that stuff, yes. Right? So check the box. I did that with it. So I met with the guy for 90 minutes, by the way, for about a decade, I've done work when Phyllis Schlafly, the late Phyllis Schlafly, for whom I worked, one of the things she cared a lot about was patents and protecting individual patent holders and inventors. So for years, we've had patent events. One of the participants in the patent events is Tom Tillis, all the time, because he's good on that issue, and we would work with him. So not a stranger in terms of policy stuff to me.
So why would...
The video's making the rounds. Good evening, Margot. How are you?
Oh, we can't stop talking about our trans Republican senator.
We just can't do it. He just won't stay out of the news either. And so here we go. So this is Ed Martin. It's the guy that the excellent candidate for a DC prosecutor who's been doing the job quite well, Trump's pick. And he talks about Tom Tillis torpedoing him.
And that he knows him. It's not like he was new to him. And I will go back and say what I said before. What a hypocrite. You will go to one of his patent events. You will endorse him for some other job, but you will not endorse him for this job. But you'll meet with him for 90 minutes.
Well, do you think that was just to blacken the eye of Trump? Because I'm starting to think that.
I kind of do think that. I mean, I think that Trump knows that Tom Tillis is not. He's not Republican, and he's not on the Trump agenda. I'm kind of surprised. Like, people want to say that Trump's going to endorse Tillis. Well, he's already endorsed Lindsey Graham. Why hasn't he endorsed Tom Tillis?
He's already endorsed Lindsey Graham and not Tom Tillis. I mean,
Well, they're equally as bad, just in different ways. I mean, at least
today. Yeah, we're learning today.
Look at that.
Yeah, about the abysmal polling. So, how vital? Tell me, how vital is this Senate race here in North Carolina in 2026, Margot?
Well, if we lose the Senate race, it's really about the composite of the overall Senate. I do want to make a point. People think that Trump is for Donald. It is not. It's for Laura. So she polls a lot better than he does, but neither poll great. And I have to say, first of all, Senegal, what do we think of them? I don't Signal. I don't know, but It sure seems like I'd like to have seen the background behind that to see, what
questions were asked, et cetera. I mean, but here's the thing. I think that I would agree with you if we weren't on the ground and feeling this. Honestly, I thought he would lose by 30. So, I think that's kind of in keeping with what we've been seeing. I mean, he's deliberately sabotaging. I mean, the one thing that he's done is he's really got a charge up on this January 6th thing. I mean, it's almost
obsessive.
I think it's kind of an obsession with him. We had Steve Baker on, who is the preeminent expert on January 6th. Unfortunately, he was a journalist that was caught up in this and was doing his job on January 6th in 2021. And actually, a year later arrested for trespass, etc. But listen to him explain the nuances of January 6th that Tom Tillis just will not appreciate.
You don't understand what is happening in the district courthouse in DC, and the precedent that is being set in that courthouse by federal judges at the nation's capital, which everybody looks to for precedent, and the abomination, the lack of due process, the lies that are taking place by FBI agents and by the U.S. attorneys, and what they're doing in these courtrooms. And until you understand that, you don't understand the threat that has, not to the 1,600 people that were arrested, but to the rest of the country.
Okay. And so Tom Tillis, he's just not, I mean, he's just willfully ignorant. He's just not listening to this. He's not going to listen to this.
I don't think that he has the capacity to, he's got somebody's in his ear. I'm not sure who. And what's really interesting is there's an awful lot of J6ers from North Carolina. You would think that at the very least, he would want to meet with them and understand it, but he has those are his constituents, but he has no desire to do that.
Well, listen to what Ed Martin said about this. I mean, I think he nailed it in a very—
That's correct.
Yeah. Exactly. And look, here's the thing, Tucker, this is what I mean by this is the fight we're in. This fight for the future of our country. Millions of Americans fall victim to the hoaxes, one after another.
Yes.
And if you fall victim to the J6 hoax, that it was an insurrection, armed, and this close to the end, then you might act like Tom Tillis, and you might rant and rave and say things like that, and that's what he did. But if you're not under the spell of the hoax, you say, wait a second, lots of people were waved into the Capitol, and maybe you could charge them with trespass, but you can't throw them in jail for 3 years, 4 years, 3.5 years, right? And then the Supreme Court, bipartisan Supreme Court, throws out the charge that was used.
Exactly.
It's called the 1512 charge. When I got in my office as U.S. Attorney, I said, first week, we're going to look at the 1512.
And so, in other words, everyone sees it, right? He has this absolutely unhealthy obsession with January 6th, something that happened in 2021. He will not let it go.
Well, and everybody who's asking the right questions? Where are all the weapons? Where are all the guns? Where's the insurrection that really occurred? I also want to understand, who is he listening to? That's the big question. Who's he listening to?
Hakeem Jeffries, perhaps.
I think
AOC, perhaps. Chuck U. Schumer, the Palestinian. Chuck U. Schumer, right. The Palestinian. I love that. Trump makes me laugh so hard.
I think that one, the Stephanopoulos, Slopolopoulos.
It's just, so, I wanted to, we've been talking about the January 6th thing. We're talking about all of Tom's flaws, but let's go back to October 2024. So it was 4 weeks before the election. And Tom was trying to silence everyone in Western North Carolina. And we thought at the time, and we're going to play, get in the time capsule and play from our show. We thought he was trying to sink the campaign. So let me show you, this was going on.
Oh, I know. I was living it.
So this is the same day. Let's look at the date. Okay. October 6th was the date. Okay. This was him, October 6th.
I'm actually impressed with how much attention was paid to a region that wasn't likely to have experienced the impact that they did. The unique nature of just the sheer.
So Kamala Harris, to no one's surprise, used that in her ad. So he became, I believe, a willing tool of his campaign.
And then he had to try to backpedal on it because she put that ad up on X and everywhere else. And he's like, that is not what I meant. I'm like, you said it.
We're going to get to that. So this is us reacting to all of that back then.
This guy, Trump, claimed the federal response in North Carolina was terrible and emergency funding is being spent on immigrants. Do you know what he's talking about?
Here, let's stipulate
is he right?
The fact that I think that the president is right to say that billions of dollars is being spent as a result of Biden's failed immigration policies and border policies. However, we have the resources that we need. We're going to have to go back and pass more resources. We can have a discussion about the failure of this administration's border policies and the billions of dollars it's costing. But right now, not yet is it affecting the flow of resources to Western North Carolina.
That's called election interference. The guy is everywhere trying to step on Trump. He will not admit that FEMA, okay, gave, what is it, millions, billions, millions, billions
Between illegal immigrant, between FEMA and the Department of Defense.
We know that we have the proof. I showed it last week. He's denying that. He's saying that all of us are liars.
It's not just that he's saying that we're liars. He's like playing that game where squirring, like, go look over there. We don't want you talking about this. And I do not appreciate that from my own state senator, from my own congressman, who all, by the way, are big buddies with Tom Tillis.
So, yeah, I mean, we nailed it then. And remember how absolutely sinful it was. It was a sinful lie. It was an absolute lie, as we pointed out there. But I don't want people to forget in the audience that he has called us liars when we're talking about the truth on the ground.
He's called us misinformation spreaders.
Right.
I mean, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. When I actually have text messages to the mayor of Canton where we did work, or to Yancey County's EMS, or many text messages giving directions to Nick Sorter as he's on the ground with the beautiful and wonderful state highway patrol members who took him here, there, and everywhere.
So 3 separate times during the campaign, which is utterly frustrating. And that's what I was alluding to. Let me fully give you guys context. That was the 3rd time that Kamala Harris had actually used Tillis as a tool to bludgeon victims, Trump, but victims of WNC.
That's absolutely correct. And he makes it very clear that Western North Carolina means nothing to him. And that's blatantly obvious, because like, how many times has he been up here since he got elected to that stupid board?
All of his enemies are inside of the borders of North Carolina.
I don't know. He's made quite a few if you look around now. I mean, I've had people, very prominent people in politics.
It's true enemies. Political enemies. I think political enemies are a given.
Mm-hmm. But when you get the news commentators against you, and even left-wing are seeing them.
CNN still loves the guy. He's the darling of CNN.
Well, we're not talking about CNN. We're talking about even the Charlotte Observer is willing to say he's acting like an idiot.
Okay. In what respect? Because I would think this is totally in keeping with their agenda.
Well, that he's in denying. Well, he hasn't been up here. He's really not fulfilled the obligation that he's had since being awarded a position or appointed a position by Trump to come and help Western North Carolina.
Yeah, well, don't hold your breath. He's not going to do that.
Oh no,
he's definitely not. The picture proves that Tillis did. Yeah, you know what, Rufus, that's right. He seemed like a fish out of water. He was very awkward, and he was the first to say FEMA's doing a grand old job, kind of like, hey, Brownie, you're doing a grand old job. Remember Bush?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
After Katrina. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just one thing. So it's not just one thing with this guy. He's continuing to do it, which, again, it fuels my suspicions that he's not running.
If he is running, he's running to lose. I mean, I will say this. I did see some along the lines of the election forthcoming. It does look like the Democrats are looking for new sources of funding at this point. But, it doesn't matter. If Stein or Cooper are the ones they put up, there's funding there. We know there is.
Okay. Well, I'm hearing that it might be our lieutenant governor now, Rachel Hunt.
That's what I heard. I've heard it could be her. I've heard there's a feud between Jeff Jackson and Josh Stein. So who knows? I mean, who really knows?
Well, we'll see. So we will keep you open. So speaking of harassing people in North Carolina, a good friend of ours, another content creator here, and another influencer, went to the General Assembly yesterday. And this is great because I love to see people that are actually doers. They have a problem and they, in consultation with their legislators, do something about it. And it's very rare that we see that. So this is Cassie Clark, will be joining us in just a second, went to the legislature and said, look, I've got a problem with a stalker or several stalkers, and this shouldn't be in public life. And the two of us have had similar problems. So we're going to talk about that right now. Hello and welcome, Cassie. So good to see you.
It's good to see y'all.
So, Cassie, tell everybody about your blogs before we get started so everybody knows where to find you.
Yeah, so I write for Where the Dogwood Blooms, and all I do is talk about North Carolina culture. And then I have a podcast, and then I do spaces, which is tonight at 8:30. And I do videos and post on Twitter.
Beautiful video. I mean, you are the culture queen of North Carolina, and I was born and raised here. In fact, I was telling my husband last night, I'm like, listen, if you live in Charlotte, you don't like NASCAR and wrestling, you ain't shit in this state.
That's right. That's right. Same thing with barbecue, right? Barbecue in North Carolina is poor.
I'm Jewish, so we don't. Barbecue chicken.
You can do the chicken.
Chicken.
Yes. And we'll barbecue a kosher hot dog in honor of Cal Cunningham.
There you go. See, and now we can do that. We can agree on that. So
I'm just kidding.
I just want to set this up. So
I made her laugh.
That's great. When I was a journalist and I just did print. I did it for years and I never had a problem. People didn't like my stuff. They would write in, and that's totally fine. We want that. The minute I showed my face, I attracted a stalker, a woman stalker who stalked me and my family relentlessly for 5 years and used the cyber stalking law against me to bring criminal charges, and ended up befriending a neo-Nazi group, and I'm Jewish. They sent horrible things to my family, and then again used the cyber stalking law against me. And now I'm in a federal lawsuit where the police in Holly Springs made up something that wasn't even cyber stalking, used it against me, and arrested me for making an X post. So I take action because the stalking, the woman stalking, I ended up suing her, put her into bankruptcy, and now have a restraining order. So that's a good thing, but not the average citizen, Cassie, you know this, cannot, number one, shouldn't be put in jail. It was misuse against me. Number two, should not have to spend money to sue someone, put them in bankruptcy and keep them away from them. But here's the thing. When I went to the police, this is what we're going to talk about, to get a stalking protection against me and my family from people that were sending me email after email and my colleagues, things that Jews should die, they're ruining America. When I sought protection, they wouldn't use the law to protect me, but others could use it against me. We're in public life to do our civic duty. We should not have to put up with this and live like this.
Exactly. So it's happened to me on 3 separate occasions now. And I'm kind of an oddball because I don't really do the political thing. I don't really judge politicians. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I just focus on North Carolina, and every once in a while I'll talk about some bipartisan issues. And I've been attacked by extremists on the left.
Stalked.
Right. Yeah. And then this one lady has been harassing me for an entire year now. So when is enough? When does it stop? And I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I decided that I was going to go to Raleigh and let them know, like, these laws are not working. They're being used against people on one side, and on the other side, there's no protection. So there's a problem in the law, and they need to address it.
So talk about the statistical, I watched your video and it was very informative. Can you talk about the statistics around stalking and what you found out just in your research?
Yeah. So over half of the people who are stalked in America are female. There's 7.5 million Americans who are cyber stalked every year.
Wow.
Yeah. And here in North Carolina, you have less than 17% of a conviction rate. So if you are being cyber stalked and you pursue that avenue to go through court and to press charges, you're likely never going to get any sort of conclusion that's going to work in your favor. It's going to go in the favor of the person who is actually, being in, they're the ones who are in the wrong.
The perpetrator.
Who are going to be protected. And that's insanity.
Right. And it also shows, just on the statistical value, the law is weak.
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you do to, what's your thought process to strengthen that law? What'd you do?
So me and several other people got together. We discussed the different issues with the current law. And honestly, our law is not that bad. The problem is that our DAs are using case law rather than the actual law to go after the people who are committing these crimes.
So what you're saying is they depend upon what the Supreme Court of North Carolina has said in Shackelford or in some of these other cases, instead of looking at the text of the law on the record.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's two ways you can initiate this, you guys. It's most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it is a magistrate. It's a people's court, right? Where someone can go up and say and make up lies, right? And use you or use the magistrate, okay, as a weapon against you. You have to hire your own lawyer, right? You have to go through all of that. And it is a living hell. It is a nightmare, right? So maybe in the law, we can put, okay, in those magistrate initiated cases, if the DA drops it or if you're found not guilty, that they pay for your lawyer. I think that's a great one. Now, in my case, you hardly ever, I don't know that I've ever heard of this being taken out by the police, right? But they used it because, like you said, one could see it as ambiguous. They didn't have anything on me. And apparently they used it just to arrest me maliciously.
Well, the laws are vague.
Yeah, the laws are vague. It's left up to the municipality or the jurisdiction,
the magistrate or the DA, which, by the way, I want to give big props out to our Democrat DA in Wake County, Lauren Freeman, who immediately saw through this bullshit and dropped those charges within 24 hours. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for looking out for the law.
But on Cassie's side, you went to talk to your magistrate, and what did they tell you?
So when I went to the magistrate, I told them everything that was going on. I brought evidence with me. And what he basically said is I can see right now that this person has been to court 5 different times over this in 5 different counties in North Carolina. Each and every time.
I think it's 9 times. Let me correct you.
Well, that my magistrate could see was only 5.
Okay.
And he was like, you really need to ask yourself if you go ahead and press charges. And he said, I believe you should. Are you going to win? Because if you don't win, you're giving her more of your information and then you've lost and she has more on you. Is that what you want to do?
You're re-victimized all over again.
Right.
So when you went to so you've decided, you elected, okay, forget that. We're going to do something different. Yeah, you and several others went to the legislature. What did you ask for?
So I went in, we told my story. There was somebody else there who has been through the same exact thing. One of the people who have stalked me have actually stalked her. And she told her story. I told my story. There were some bill suggestions that we had, and I let them know, like, I'm not saying that you have to use these specific bills, but there are problems and they need to be addressed. So we need a jumping off point. Whatever jumping off point you choose, I'm okay with that, but something needs to be done. And they were so receptive.
Yes.
And we didn't speak to just conservatives. We spoke to Democrats. I spoke to so many aides. Y'all, my feet hurt today.
I'm so proud of you.
Well, what I'm proud of is that you didn't just talk about it, you did something about it. And what was the response now that you did this? What was the response you received?
So one of the reps that we actually spoke to, my heart really went out to him. He was older. And apparently at some point within the last year or so, the cop showed up at his house in the middle of the night. He had never heard of swatting before. And as we're explaining to him what swatting is, he was shocked. And he was like, I think that may be what happened to me. Oh. And I know it just broke my heart for him. I was so sad for him. And
just because in public life, that's the thing. Just because we are doing, and women do stalk, because most of the stalkers we're talking about are women, but just because we want to, we want to use our freedom, right? We're not bothering anyone, right? We are holding the government accountable, or in your case, you're showing what's beautiful about North Carolina culture and fighting for it, by the way. Not bothering anyone. It's just the mere fact that we exist that pisses nut jobs off. And by the way, these people are usually indigent. So if you couldn't sue them because they don't have the money, they're living off of government assistance and whatever, and they've got nothing to do and all day to do it. And we are the targets of the most heinous. I mean, let me tell you what it is. Cassie, let me just tell you. It is everywhere you go, everything that you do is monitored online, and everyone you associate with is called and emailed. Your family, your entire family, no matter if they're in-laws, whatever, they're contacted.
Strangers.
Contacted. You know, they'll call the FBI on you. They will make up charges. They will call the IRS. They will call the FEC. They will make up these charges. I had an instance where several times there were 7 stalkers at once who would have, get this, a roundtable TV show on me, video, with notebooks, and bring out things about my family, true and untrue, all because I'm doing exactly what I'm doing now, or in most cases, I've been on national TV programs. It has been a living hell, and like you said, if you fight back, you're the one who's going to be victimized.
I still want to get back to what kind of commitments you got.
So basically, one of the, and he's a pretty powerful, I'm not going to drop any names because I don't want anyone to know who we spoke to just for safety reasons. But one of the more powerful people that we spoke to and actually had a meeting with said, keep in touch with me. We're going to pursue this.
And he called me, and it's Neil Jackson. So Neil Jackson has committed, right, to doing this long before. This is important. Because these are lawmakers that are going to stand behind it. They're not going to.
She'll cyber-stalk him, and he'll get to see how it feels.
Listen,
probably.
That's why we didn't want to use any names.
Listen, these people prove their point, but the important thing is, do not be afraid, right? I mean, the law is there to protect the people. And so you went up there, and the reason why I'm telling you that is because he was so impressed with what you guys said. He talked to a lot of people, and I think that that's going to become a reality where there's going to be more recourse, and the law can't be a weapon, Cassie and Margot. The law now is a weapon against people.
No, it's a weapon against the innocent people.
That's right.
Yes. And I think that's what particularly bothers me is, you know, I can understand a little bit of back and forth. You know, I mean, I'm a hillbilly. I'm very good at the back and forth. But once I cut off that communication and I tell you that, leave me alone. You know, and one of the people who've been stalking me, like I said, they've been stalking me for a year. I don't address this person. I don't say their name. I never share screenshots of what they're posting about me. I don't want to put that out there in the world. And part of the reason that I'm pretty sure part of the reason that they are stalking me is because of who my friends are. They know that I'm friends with Margot. They know that I'm friends with you. Because what other reason in the world would you have to attack me? Because you're in the political world. I'm not. And so that makes it even worse to me. So you are literally stalking me by association.
But you're saying that it's us, but it also happens to lawmakers. And so, you know, and that's what I talked about. Another lawmaker, I will not tell you who it is, yesterday. And he said, wow, they came in here, and it resonated with so many people in here who have been through it. So none of us are alone. And I think now we're raising the consciousness of the people inside of the building in the General Assembly to have the motivation to want to do something.
Well, and 17% is the biggest tell, isn't it, Cassie?
Right. I mean, you cannot tell me that only 17% of cyber stalking cases is that person guilty. I mean, I waited for almost a year to go to the magistrate. You know, I mean, I let this go on for an entire year before I decided to do something about it. And I would guarantee that most people are that way, because why else? I mean, why am I worried about somebody who lives, you know, 2 hours away?
We're tough. We're tough in public life. You know, we have a big platform. We have a lot of followers. We don't want to make a big deal. And it's kind of embarrassing. It's kind of like admitting, you know, defeat in a way or something like that. And we don't like to make ourselves the story. But tonight it was so important because of the step that you took and the reaction that is going on in the General Assembly. And that it's so common that the 3 of us are sitting here talking about it.
Well, and I think there's one other piece. All three of us are tough. All three of us can take it. But there are areas of your life that are off limits. You talk about my kid, and I'm going to make this personal right now. I will come for you. It's not over. You talk about my family, you get into my personal business out that is not available unless you go digging for it, and you insert yourself in personal business by sending emails to people that you don't even know.
They're contacting the family. It's one thing to talk about the family, which is tasteless, I don't like it, etc. It is protected speech. Contacting your family, complete strangers, and telling them lies about you, that is stalking. This is stalking. And cyber stalking, I don't even like that word. This is relentless stalking, you guys. It happens. It shouldn't happen. Cassie, thank you for coming on and talking about this. Thank you for fighting.
Wait a minute. What time is your space tonight?
It's at 8:30 right now.
And okay. One more thing. Where do people find your blog?
Yeah, it's at www.wherethedogwoodblooms.com.
Well, we go listen to her blog, watch her blog, and read her blog because she has great content on it. If you're in North Carolina and you love your state, she's the queen.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you, Cassie. Keep up the fight.
Absolutely.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
That's awesome.
It's just a shame. Again, there are a lot of people who are content creators, and you may not agree with them.
Yeah, here's the thing, Sloan. This isn't just about the one person. Okay, let me tell you a few things. One of the biggest trends on TikTok, which is one of the reasons why right now I'm not posting on TikTok, people are going to DSS to take kids away from their parents because of a person on TikTok. People are contacting the federal government because it's across state lines and saying, hey, this is cyber stalking, because the federal laws are different than the state laws. When you start taking children's, trying to take their kids away, when you start involving adult children that you do not know, when you start, getting the FBI involved just because you think it's funny, that is nuts.
Yeah. And that is part of what has happened here, and abusing federal agencies to go after someone for baseless claims. I mean, and again, I want to emphasize to people, this is meant to shut people down. This is meant to silence speech. It's meant to intimidate and terrify someone to the point where they want to silence speech. And it's jealousy. It's pathological jealousy in these instances. But don't you worry. There are solutions available, and they are coming forthwith. So wanted to talk about Cabarrus County because this is a crazy situation. You've got a lot to say about it. We're going to kind of pivot here.
It's just kind of nutty.
It's nuts. Listen what happened.
Now to a controversial vote in Cabarrus County. Outgoing Chairman of Commissioners Chris Meismer voted on his own future vacancy after the county attorney said it's his belief that was allowed. Meismer has been appointed to the North Carolina Senate, but he has not yet been sworn in. He and Commissioner Laura Blackwell-Lindsay and Larry Pittman selected LaMary Austin Stripling to serve the remainder of Meismer's term. She was endorsed by the Cabarrus GOP for the seat.
Okay. What's happening here?
Well, so what happened specifically is a member of the North Carolina legislature stepped down in the middle of his term. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the way it works in North Carolina is the local GOP for that county selects the next person to take the spot. They literally vote on it. Only executive board members, not the entire GOP, just the executive committee, right? Chair, vice chair, those people. And so they did that. And honestly, the county commissioners should not have really been the ones to select the person for that seat. It should have gone to the GOP to take the person that they'd selected that's moving on to the legislature and fill that seat. And the concern I have with this is I've seen 3 separate incidents of this in North Carolina from my area, where a judge retired early during the middle of his term, to this one, to one down in Eastern North Carolina. And the NCGOP is not instructing the party officials how to do this correctly. So all 3 were handled differently. One of them was, I know, handled correctly because we made the NCGOP lawyer come to our area and do the vote for the judge.
So you're saying that this is standardized. I mean, this should be standardized across all counties, all situations, no matter what. Is that written into the plan of organization?
No. It's the law. It's the law. And what we ask is, because it's the law and it falls back on the party to fulfill that spot, the NCGOP should insert itself to ensure the process is handled appropriately.
Well, even if they were going to insert themselves, I think that would serve as a deterrent, at least a deterrent for this happening. Nobody wants the pain in the ass
Exactly.
going against them, right? And nobody wants the risk of being kicked out of the party. And so what you're saying is just
not to kick out of the party, Sloan. Let me put it in context.
Yeah.
We really want, like, we have an NCGOP lawyer.
Yes.
His job should be to protect and provide the process and advice to the local GOP in the county to make sure it's done by the letter of the law. He's a lawyer. That's what he's hired for. And that's one of the things if you're in the GOP, that's one of the things you should expect from him. The fact that they did not have legal counsel from the NCGOP and just decided to put it together on their own with no help, that's a problem.
Okay. All right. So speaking of the GOP, I mean, we've got elections coming up. We're, going into convention, but there's 3 suggestions I wanted to talk to you about. I want to discuss it with our audience that the GOP has to do a better job of and make sure that they're doing it. Because right now, the way that it works in North Carolina is the NCGOP really doesn't do a lot on messaging. You've got, especially in the state house races, right? You've got the Senate caucus, which has their own PAC, and the House caucus. And their messaging has been lackluster. I'm going to tell you, we've won by the skin of our teeth. I don't know how, but the messaging's been terrible and et cetera. We're going to talk about this. The number one thing we need to do is, 2026 is coming up. So we got to get our stuff together. We have got to start fortifying the base in these conservative counties for these statewide races where we can get big, big numbers like Union County, Johnson, Gaston. We're not milking enough votes and turnout there.
Well, I think they should already be working on that. Like Scott Presler's already doing that right now. He's already,
he's not the GOP. I want the GOP.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he's doing it, they should be doing it.
Yeah.
My point is that he's already on it. Why aren't they?
Yeah. And local candidate recruitment. So we've got sheriff and DA races in all 100 counties, all over the place. Where are our recruits? There has got to be assistance and some sort of, overarching connectivity to recruit candidates. We cannot leave it up just to the county parties.
Well, and what I would suggest is filing is not until December, but now is the time to say we're going to have filing in December. Is there anyone here who wants to run? Let's get a vetting and a nomination committee together. Let's figure out how we want to do this. Don't let them come to you, go to them. Like there may be somebody in the community you never thought of until you have a committee formed or you talk to them that becomes a candidate.
Right. And this is the messaging that I'm talking about.
Right.
Hyper local messaging. I saw the same messaging in every campaign, no matter if they were in Warren County or Mecklenburg County, and it did not resonate at all in 50% of the counties. It needs to be a kitchen table issue. I'm sorry, for rural North Carolina, for Pasquotank, is not the same kitchen table issue in Mecklenburg, in Guilford.
Yeah, it's funny I'm just sitting here looking at what our issues are. And we already have a candidate for sheriff here. He's out and running.
Yeah.
But you don't see that everywhere. I don't see that in others. I did see that one on the East Coast did come out yesterday, but they're starting to emerge. Starting to emerge, but it should be a general feeler. There should be a blanket statement that goes out to all NCGOP members that says the campaigning should start in the next 90 days.
Are we talking about, we're not addressing the points I just put up. We're back to this, right?
Well, no. Yeah, we're just talking about this right now. But listen, when you talk about local candidate recruitment, the same thing is true of setting up the operation. The NCGOP should be saying, where is your operation for this local campaign that's about to start, which includes getting ready for the voters. Okay.
So let's move on. So hyper local messaging. So we really want to make sure that there's not, focus groups are the best. So I've run campaigns before. That's what I do. Going into focus groups where you take no more than 5 or 6 people and you really spend a couple of hours drilling down to what their issues are. And like it or not, you're going to have to do it. Certainly if you're running the Senate campaign here in North Carolina, you're going to have to go to every Senate district. And I think you can get away with it that way. There's more House district, more expensive, but you've got to find out You know, if you take the top 5 issues, probably 3 are going to be the same all over the state, but those 2 make the difference for turnout. It really makes a difference. So GOP, if you want to invest in candidates, I think the best way to do it is with focus groups, help them get the messaging. Yeah. Also, pass and promote signature bills. We've been talking about this, and people love this for what? Since January. We've been going over all the bills and showing what total crap that the Democrats are trying to push down our throat with respect to immigration, crime, and education.
Yeah, the challenge is we have a very poor record of putting the information out to somebody that's like rural, that doesn't really see, not us, I'm talking about the GOP. They're really bad. Yeah. They're really, and even the legislature, there's not enough of that, tooting your own horn when you do the right thing.
I think I like what's coming out of Majority Leader Brendan Jones' office on social media.
All right. Social media is different. Here's what I'm saying about that.
The Senate's doing a terrible job. I think the House is doing an incredible job. The leader
on social media, but everybody's not on X. Rural voters, but I'm just saying, like, there's no reason for, if you're going to ask the legislature to come help you vote as the chair, why aren't you letting them disperse the message for you about all the good things you're doing? It's not reciprocal.
Well, we don't know. What I don't know is if that is being gone out in mailers or emails, etc. What I see is social media. So I'm going to, leave it up in the air. And I'll just ask the question, are you guys sending this via, how are you disseminating this message? We see one platform. I'm talking about the message I really like. And they're using this legislation. They're using the ridiculous pickleball legislation. They're using the dangerous, open border policies and the dangerous, grooming of our children in the classroom. So they're using those bills against the Democrats. They need to keep doing that if we're going to win.
It needs to be a constant message to the base. And that's where I'm saying they need to have some crossover communication, because the registration lists are mostly the same as the list of constituents.
Yeah. So we need to get out there. We need to communicate. We need to have some candidates. You put up a devastating post, and I just want to address it, and I want to talk about this. One thing that they do need to talk about as far as legislation, okay, is how they're going to improve healthcare. I want to talk about 2 bills that the GOP has put up. That it has not, we don't know if it's advanced yet or advancing. We're going to talk about it. So we've got, talk about this, because you blew me away. This is the actual thing from Forbes. We're number what in healthcare? 10 worst?
10th worst. 10th highest when it comes to
the cost is number 1. We're the highest cost. So, and get this, it boils down to, we have a strong need for more qualified healthcare professionals.
Well, I think the bigger issue is, we are the most expensive state for healthcare. So if you start at that point and you start looking at all the negative things that I just put up there, which I don't usually like to put up negative posts, but lately I've been doing a lot of research about, just all kinds of stuff. And that really struck me. I wanted to know where we are on the bad list. And so I started looking at healthcare. That's one bad place. And believe it or not, we rank worse than Mississippi in education. Yeah. So you wait till we get to that one. But the point of this is 10th worst in healthcare access. So we're rural. There's a lot of rural North Carolina. 10th worst. I thought you were going to keep it up so I could go through it.
Oh, sure. I'll put it right back up.
5th lowest number of nurse practitioners per 10,000 residents. Wow. And I think there's a bill in the legislature about that right now. So we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
8th highest average premium for employees with single coverage through employer provided insurance. Also, cost of insurance is just outrageous in North Carolina. 10th highest percentage of residents without health care. Employers cover only 76% of employees. And previously, we were ranked 3rd worst of overall in healthcare and worst in the nation in healthcare costs.
Well, we need to talk about this. I'm gonna blame the party that's been in charge. It's been the Republicans. I think perhaps they're taking it seriously now, but you got to remember when we talk about it with these bills, there's a lot of money coming into them from the hospital lobby. A tremendous amount. And so they are, and I'm going to show you, in direct competition with some of these very common sense bills that we're going to address when I can get to it. Okay. There's two bills in particular that I think need to be addressed. This is putting nurse practitioners in a position where they're able to practice more autonomously. So it's Senate Bill 537. This has come up a lot. Okay. Right now, the way it is, if you're a nurse practitioner, and I think it's 6 years of school, they function and, they handle chronic care. Nothing major.
Family practice.
Some primary care, some chronic care. It's going to cut red tape and let nurse practitioners treat patients without permission from doctors. Get this, one law, boom, it already puts 1,000 more providers.
North Carolina is one of the very few states that does not allow nurse practitioners to practice autonomously. I didn't know if you knew that.
I mean,
all the bordering states around us do.
It's absolutely incredible. And the holdup are lobbyists. This is the main lobby. This is North Carolina Medical Society is an extension of the American Medical Association. The far woke medical association that wanted transgender children, the far woke medical association that wanted masks on until, right now, if they could get away with it. Representative Tim Reeder is out of Pitt County and he leads some health committees. He is trying to make sure that this bill doesn't pass, is my understanding.
Shameful. That is shameful. If you're going to let PAs practice, you should absolutely let nurse practitioners practice. I live in a border county. You can go across to Georgia and get in immediately with a nurse practitioner. You cannot do that in North Carolina. It's dumb.
1,000 more. I mean, if our main problem, right? I mean, one of the main problems is cost. Another one is access. And you have 1,000 more, people on the field to do that. Why wouldn't you do that? So this is.
I think there's one more piece of it that we're not considering. Anytime a nurse decides they want to go from a BSN to a nurse practitioner, normally the cost is covered by the hospital facility because then they can spread them around in a different way. It actually gives them more leverage and loyalty.
Well, here's the problem. The reason why the hospital association doesn't want that is because they want consolidated billing. Let me tell you how it works. So they want to pay that nurse practitioner, let's say $90,000. Okay. It's a big job. They want to do that. But they want to be able to bill, like you said, okay, a lot more for her, right? So that becomes more costly. So let's say the actual cost of services, the actual cost, right, for a 10-minute visit is, $67. They're going to bill $567, right, and take that off the top. And that's why the price gets jacked up. So along with the medical society who thinks that doctors are sacrosanct, we've shown some of them are absolute reprobates, former sexual predators, drug addicts, etc. We've shown that. The hospital association, now they can't bill for that. So what you said, they're doing that to make more money. But this bill does two things. It adds more providers. And just for the reason I explained, it's going to cut down on the cost.
It's reducing costs.
Absolutely.
And it's also, honestly, if you add more providers, that means people are going to get better care.
Yeah. A lot more access, guys. And that's what we need, especially in these rural areas. So this is another one, removing prior authorization for insurance mandates. Okay. So what it's going to do now is, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, look, I need to order this test, but we need to get it authorized. And then 10 days later, you call the doctor back and say, hey, what gives? Right? Well, this is going to cut the red tape. It's going to cap the new mandates. It's streamlining coverage, making it easier for patients to get timely care without endless prior approvals.
Well, and also denials, because what happens is a patient like myself, that's happened to me more than once, will go and try to get a pre-authorization, and I'll be denied, and I'll have to go through the red tape again, or go ask for an out of process approval, which that's what they do now. That's what insurance companies do. They deny first and make you do all the legwork to get past the first denial. So really what this is allowing is better access to the providers that you pay for.
Okay. That you're already paying for. That makes sense. Protecting your paycheck, fewer unnecessary mandates. Okay. Lower premium hikes. I mean, it's exquisitely expensive to have insurance, and even with your copay, et cetera, and it goes up every year. It's $60, and we have the Cadillac program for a primary care visit.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorite bills when it comes to medical reform, and I will give you my example. If you go through cancer treatment, there are a lot of drugs that are not on the schedule, and you have to have pre-authorization to be able to get them. And if you think about that, they're already in a bad situation, and they're fighting with the insurance company to get a drug that has a doctor's already said they need.
Saving.
Well, but the insurance company's like, well, we're not going to do that. So I'm very in favor of this.
Good. Yeah, I am too. It's just, it's needed. And those are two bills that would help reverse that. But getting back to what the GOP needs to do and what candidates need to do, perfect bill seems to me to pass so that you're able to talk about it on the campaign trail. Because I think one of those kitchen table issues is going to be healthcare.
Oh, it is healthcare. Absolutely, it is. When you're the highest cost of healthcare in the state, and in the bordering states around you are significantly less. And frankly, let's just be like, listen, what I was really doing was digging around to compare like which is the cheapest state in the South, because I was like, what we know people are moving to the South. Let's just be honest. I'm like, if I were moving to the South, where would I move? Well, I'm going to tell you. You know where you'd move? Tennessee. No state income tax, low property taxes, great healthcare insurance. They actually hit all the numbers, and they're better in education than we are. So I was trying to do a bordering comparison, and that's what brought me to this set of numbers. I was really just looking around trying to figure out who's better at what.
Well, if the Republicans really want to make they really want to make a difference, they have to start, modeling our policies after. They like to say they model it after Florida, but Florida is a different animal. I like using Tennessee for comparison. I think that's a really good idea, so that they're providing more value.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, we're headed in the Tennessee direction. If you look at property taxes, we're the second lowest. Tennessee, the lowest because they have none. So if we're going to mirror ourselves as a conservative state, like a state, which has radical cities like we do, and we border each other, I think that's the right state, because we actually have had good forethought from our conservative legislature in the past, and they have passed a law that is reducing the income tax in North Carolina every 2 or 4 years. So we're moving to the zero income tax model.
That's great. And it can't come soon enough. But one thing that I saw today from Brian Balfour, I really wanted to explore this because it does have to do with taxes. Right. So he's talking about Pfizer pulling out of a deal, and I'm going to go over some. He's like, another corporate welfare program failed. And that's, giving these failing. It's a lot of biotech, right? A lot of biotech moving to the state, giving them tax credits and saying, I'm tired of seeing ribbon cuttings. Here's old Joshy Stein cutting a ribbon and then them pulling out. So I want to go ahead and explore this. I mean, it's a growing pattern that really every North Carolina taxpayer should be talking about. Where's the accountability? Because over the last few years, our state has promised billions of dollars, tax incentives to mega corporations. You see
incentives or deferments.
Okay. Anyway, Centene, Invitae, Bandwidth, Pfizer most recently, with the promise of new jobs and shiny new headquarters. But guess what? They took the deal in a lot of cases and walked away. Jobs did not materialize. So let's look at this. Invitae Corp was given up to get this $6.8 million in exchange for them investing $114 million, they were saying, in genetic testing jobs, et cetera, 374 high-paying jobs. And now you see that did not happen at all.
Well, so there's a couple different levels of this we should talk about. There's federal incentives, there's state incentives, and then there's county incentives, right?
Let me go over the deferments. Let me just show everybody what this is first. Let me put up some other ones, and then I want to break down with you how this comes out, right? I mean, the outcome on this one, we're talking about the company filed for bankruptcy, failed to reporting requirements for tied to the grant. I mean, it now is screwed. Now, next up, we have Pfizer. This just came out. They are promised to expand their operations in Sanford, which is in Lee County. And they get this, an undisclosed sweetheart deal. Now that deal has been terminated immediately. Bandwidth, okay, they're another one that said, okay, we're going to bring in jobs. And, look at what happened here. It did not materialize. $32 million, okay, in various grants, et cetera, that's paid for by the taxpayers. All right. They said, we're going to do 1,100 jobs. Get this, 87 jobs materialized. Now, this is really a screw job here. Centene, which is a Medicaid healthcare company right here. They said that they were actually offered $388 million from the state, $26 million from Mecklenburg County, $32 million from the city of Charlotte to create 3,000 jobs. But look, that was a bust. Now, these aren't just flukes. This is a broken model where, the leaders are really gambling here and putting us in jeopardy with our taxpayer dollars. You're going to explain that how it works, but I think we should start building up local businesses that have the potential to have these jobs. What do you think?
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
The biggest issue is the way that they incentivize, right? Okay. And they have to go to major cities, or what they do is they plan out and look like who has workforce housing available immediately. Who can we stream in, trickle in workforce housing and has a base of workers that can do the job. Where are those located? So that when you say look local, that may be a problem because workforce housing may be an issue, or something may be causing them not to be able to look and augment local businesses. Do I think they should do it? Absolutely. On those businesses where we can totally see success, like, in the Greensbury area or in the Volvo plant where they could actually, make it larger because we don't want to bring imports, right? I love that idea. I think the challenge is the position it puts counties and state government in when these incentives are handed out. We are paying for them. And who's going to say, hey, no, you're not keeping up? Who's watching the people doing it?
Look, everybody wants jobs. I mean, I think the most remarkable one was Centene, where, to your point, the county gave them money, the state, the county, and the city. That was a royal screw job right there.
Yeah. And what they lost, they'll never get back. They can't go back and drag that money back. And now they're stuck with a property that they thought that was going to be used for a specific company and that it was going to have 3,200 employees in it.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want to give you a positive. The positive is yesterday, I was speaking to someone in the city manager's office in Catawba County, and they are marrying up the incentives and to the companies to see where they're at. And they're calling them and saying, listen, you need to up it or you're done.
They have a huge accountability system, which we're not really seeing in all these instances, right?
Right. And I would say that this is a good one for Doge in Dave's office.
Okay.
There should be someone in Dave's office that can do a state level assessment and make sure these companies that are given incentives are tracking online to where they need to be. And then I think that process should be taught to the counties. I honestly believe Dave's group should be doing seminars on how to do things and use the software to do it in your own county, because I love that Catawba is actually on top of it. I'd love to see other counties be on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is about saving taxpayer dollars. We don't have a lot of it. I mean, waste, fraud, and abuse, baby, is all what we're all about, cutting that. And again, just wrapping it up here, that's something that every voter would like to hear, right? That's a success story that we can take to every county as the GOP and say, look, this is what we're working on, et cetera. This is how we're doing it. We're saving money. And that's something we have not done yet with the GOP and with messaging and actually with results, actually with the policy to back it up.
Well, and I'm going to leave you one really positive note, which nobody talks about. North Carolina is one of the most solvent states. We have very little debt. Our stewards at the legislature, specifically in the treasurer's office and over in the departments that handle that we have very little debt. And when you look I was comparing that to other states, and I have to say it's pretty impressive. But it's sad that we have no debt, but we can't help teachers and students not be 49th in pay and in education, or that we can't bring down healthcare costs. I don't want to put us in debt, but I'd like to see a way for us to bring that up to the positive, like our debt ratio is.
Well, I think these two GOP bills are a good start. We need to get them passed. We need to get the show on the road and not let special interests get in the way of doing that.
100%.
All right.
I'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you guys for being with us. Tuesday, we're going to be playing the best of, because I'm going to be in DC all week.
That's right.
At the Middle East Policy Conference, talking about a lot of the stories that actually we've been covering here that are relevant here. And it's the burgeoning threat of Islamic terror right here inside of our borders, whether it's doctors or whether it's an an extreme Islamist here at NC State talking about it's perfectly fine for adult men to be with 8-year-old girls.
It's ridiculous.
And things like that. So I'm going to come back with a fresh perspective. We're going to have the best of shows next Tuesday. So, and I'll see you Thursday. We'll see you right back here Thursday.
See you then.
Okay. Bye-bye. Good night.
That's a wrap on today's NC Political Tea. We hope you're leaving sharper, spicier, and ready to take on the political craziness in the Tar Heel State. If you loved what you heard, or even if it made you mad, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this show with your friends, family, and that one coworker who just needs the truth. Follow us on social media to stay in the loop and get your daily dose of conservative fire. And remember, here in North Carolina, the grassroots grows stronger when we stand together. Until next time, keep the faith, keep up the fight, and don't let the left water down your tea. This is NC Political Tea, where we spill it like it is.